I began this inquiry project with a question. What is a first responder?
It's a loud truck.
Once he does the initial size up and actually has the first patient contact.
So it's pretty much size up, first one on the scene, any kind of wreck or any kind of structure or anything like that. We're first responders.
I would probably say that a first responder is basically literally the first response. That can be just a civilian just sitting, having to be watching the incident that occurred. Whoever the first person is to come and, assess the situation, administer aid, call for help, any kind of authorities, just do whatever they can to help.
The first responder would technically be the trained professional that does the job, so that would be the fire, police, or the rescue.
To me, I would say first responders are, I just think of, police officers, EMTs, firefighters. When there's an emergency, those are the people who are generally there first.
Here at the police department, we are the campus's first line of defense.
So as you can see, the majority of the people that I've interviewed have responded along the lines of the first responder being the first uniformed personnel on the scene with training in the situation at hand. But according to the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin and an article titled "Those Terrible First Few Moments, Revisiting Active Shooter Protocols for Schools" by Michael Eberger and Jeffrey Eberger, both with PhDs, when we examine the time period between the first contact with an armed intruder on school grounds and the arrival of help, they suggest that the police should be considered second responders. Unless the situation begins with the shooter confronting a school resource officer, the first reaction will come from individuals whose professional orientation is far removed from armed conflict. That means you, me, and anyone you share a classroom with. I had a chance to sit down with Lieutenant Brian Thomas, who is the UNC Charlotte Emergency Management Officer. We discussed what the role of the student and faculty was from the point of view of the administration and those who make the crisis management doctrine.
My name is Lieutenant Brian Thomas with the UNC Charlotte Police Department. I'm also the Emergency Management Coordinator for the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Term first responder to me is basically anyone you're calling looking for help. That may be dependent on the nature of the emergency. In a formal sense, it may be the police department, it may be fire, it may be medic, or in a situation where professional people aren't available, anyone that you're looking to assistance from. When you start talking to anybody on the campus community, being faculty, staff, or students, the first thing we ask them is to understand that they have a great stake in their own safety. The police are here to help. We do the very best job we can, but I might have 5 people on duty. There are 26,000 plus students here. We have 60, 70 buildings on this campus now. We can't be in all places at all times. And we'd love to be, but it's going to take us a minute or two to get places. So for those first couple minutes, especially in a situation like an active shooter or something like that, they're responsible for their own safety until we can get there. We can't force people to read policy. We can't force people to watch videos or anything else. We strongly encourage them to, and we are doing our very best to tell people, look, a lot of this information, our campus evacuation plan is available online. It came into fruition in 2013, and it has grown since then. What we have is a series of color-coded areas, and we want to make it as simple as possible for people to understand what we're talking about. We try to create a culture where people want to read it, where people want to know about this information, so when they go there, they'll have an active interest in it.
An active interest is the cornerstone of preparation. We can begin to see that the uniformed personnel that we count on to resolve situations in turn have an expectation of us to manage a crisis to the best of our ability until they arrive on the scene. In some instances, the officer may rely on you to be his only support in an overwhelming situation.
A while back I got into a vehicle chase. Wanted to stop a car. He was speeding up 74. I had another officer clocked him at 70-something. In a 55, I tried to stop him. He run from me. He wound up wrecking right up here uptown. Killed some people in a car. Slung a kid out of a car. The kid, thank goodness there were some people there who were off-duty nurses, or a doctor, might have been a doctor, I can't really remember, but they were over there helping him while I handled other things, and I'm just really glad that they were there. So some people are. I mean, it's a good thing that they were in the area and willing to help. So.
I myself have lived through a situation that is finally in tune with this scenario. When I was injured in Afghanistan by a roadside bomb, it wasn't a medic who did the initial triage and performed first aid. I performed self-aid until the closest person to me could lend a hand. It wasn't until much later that the uniformed medical personnel was at my side.
But what do the students think? If faced with an active shooter scenario, would they be ready to react? Would they know how to react? Would they know who to expect to be on the way and how long they could expect it to take for them to get there? How long would they have to hold in place before the campus first line of defense would be on the scene?
Your first line of defense is always going to be yourself, in terms of taking care of yourself, but I guess that would have to be emergency services that are on campus, such as the campus police.
I'd like to say I'm prepared, but if it came down to it, it'd be a really hard situation. I mean, everybody's going to be emotionally struck by it, but I think that if it came down to it, it could be, I mean, I could handle it to an extent.
I'm not aware of any current policies that are in place. I've never actually attended anything from, say, campus police or security, nor do I see any kind of PSAs, flyers, posters, anything around campus to let me know what exactly is supposed to happen if something goes down.
Do you know what the current policies in place are to safeguard you against violence on campus?
I do not.
There are some professional development programs available through campus, that faculty can do, training on, again, spotting like behavioral issues and what to do with that, how to handle that, referring students to specific services on campus. But that is more of, and those are available to all faculty.
So the role of faculty, staff, and student is to be prepared, to know what they need to do in the event. You always have three choices. There's hide, there's run, and there's fight back.
Devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. There are three things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your number one priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. There are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.